Hey babes, welcome to the Happiness Heals channel. My name is Miss T, and today we will be completing the April Paycheck Bill Tracker and the Budget by Paycheck Workbook provided by the Budget Mom. You can see I have provided an example of what a blank Paycheck Bill Tracker looks like for the month of May, but today we will be working on completing the April one based on my actual amounts. I will walk you through converting your budgeted amounts into actual amounts on the bill tracker. Stay tuned.
I went ahead and put in my April budgeted amounts to speed up time and to also be able to talk through some of the numbers. So, as I mentioned on these videos, I will be showing my real numbers. So these are actually what my actual paycheck, bills, and savings look like. In terms of my expenses. And this is just really an introductory video to show you how to set up the bill tracker. And then if you like additional videos, leave a comment below if you like the way that I show how to fill out the bill tracker, and I will post additional videos in the future as a follow-up. So let's get to it. So if you see my estimated GSA paycheck, or that's actually from my job, is $2,914.46. That amount is based on my last paycheck. However, when checking my bank account today, yesterday, which was my payday Friday, the amount was $2,914.63. So the way that I set up my paycheck bill tracker is a little bit different from the way the Budget Mom sets up hers, in that I use my budgeted column to kind of come up with the budget of what I think my expenses will be about a week before I actually get paid. This just helps me kind of estimate what my numbers should look like in terms of my bills, how much I'll have for variable expenses, and just to see kind of where I am based on my budget calendar, in terms of being able to allocate my various amounts of spending. However, on my actual payday, or maybe sometimes the day before my payday, if I'm able to figure out what my actual paycheck amount will be, either way, I do an actual budget using the actual budget column on my payday or the day before I get paid, just so that I know what the real numbers are and make sure that the expenses that I initially thought I would have are the only expenses I have. Sometimes within a week's time, you'll be surprised. New things come up, especially when you're a parent, that I need to add to my calendar, or in the situation that we're all experiencing right now, there are definitely some unexpected expenses that may come up, and there will be a few adjustments as I put this together based on those. So, in addition to my paycheck, I also have $50 that goes into an online savings account. I normally split that up into an emergency fund amount, $25 towards that, and then $25 towards what I call my long-term savings. And it's really not long-term. It's more or less the savings that I need to tap into possibly in between paychecks. So it really isn't long term. I probably need to rename it, but the long and short of it is, before I actually have to go into my emergency savings, which I really try to save for emergencies, I have this interim savings account which I use to kind of make it in between paydays if for some reason I have unexpected expenses or my checking buffer isn't enough. And I've experienced that actually once or twice now since the whole COVID-19 situation began. Prior to that, I really didn't have to tap into it much, but I'm really glad that I set it up that way, because this has allowed me multiple tiers of savings in order to be able to try to maintain still my emergency fund, in case, my car breaks down, I have to move suddenly. I mean, any kind of really unexpected major emergency life event happens, someone in my family gets really sick, or God forbid passes away, anything like that, I would have my emergency sinking fund to tap into. But I really don't like to have to tap into that unless it's a true emergency. So this interim savings account really gives me that extra buffer besides just my checking account buffer, in order to make it from payday to payday. So $50, like I said, goes towards the paycheck as well as my savings, and then rollover funds tend to be anything left over from my savings challenges month to month, which I mentioned on the MILF Mama Monday video where I introduced the Budget Mom, that she does monthly challenges to help you find creative ways to save your money. And with that, she has various challenges that you can use your cash envelopes towards, or your cash spending towards, or you could use your accounts towards. When I was doing the cash envelopes, I really killed it with these because killed it in a good way, meaning because I was able to stash away like $5 bills, $1 bills, whatever the challenges were at the time. I really got into them heavily. Now and I decided actually at the end of each month, rather than waiting to the end of the year, I would still track it on an annual basis just to see how much I was able to save over the year. But each month I actually took that money and put it towards my debt, my savings, or some expenses that I needed to, just so that I wouldn't have the money there sitting and calling at me to spend on something unnecessarily throughout the year. And it really worked for me that way. So my rollover funds, I actually have $34 left from my savings challenges from March. And that's a carryover, as well as $10 in my credit union account, savings account. So actually my rollover funds are $44 with the extra $10 from my checking account. And I actually think that... So after going back and looking at my account, I actually have $40 in that savings account. So this rollover funds would be $34 in cash, and then I actually have another $40 in my credit union savings account. So the 34 plus the 30, no, plus the 40 from my credit union account actually gives me a rollover of $74, which I appreciate. So then I'm going to add that up, the paycheck amount, as well as the savings amount, and my rollover funds to get what my actual income for this pay period will be. Let's see, 294 plus 50 plus 74. Cool. Okay. Actually, I'm going to move my cash envelope breakdown sheet out of the way. We'll talk about that when we get to it. So, with that, my total is $3,038.63, which is a little bit more than what I expected, which is why I do it this way, so that I can always be able to tell the difference. And then let's go through what my bills are and the other categories so you can see how I break everything out and allocate all of this money. So, I know that my household expenses will remain the same at $1,183. I also have a credit card. I actually paid it in full last month, but then they issued me a credit increase and they issued me an annual fee. It was like a couple extra little things. And then I charged one thing on a day when I didn't have my bank card with me, which I hated. I think I'm going to take that credit card out of my wallet. I'm still debating about that. But needless to say, my balance got back up to $156.28. So I'm actually going to pay that full amount. So I will put in here $156.28. And then also I have Afterpay for some planner items that I purchased. And that payment is $20.27. Then also I'm paying for my daughter's senior photos, which are on a payment plan for $85.17. And I think I'm very close to finishing off those payments actually. So that should be coming off my bill tracker soon. And then also I just recently, last month I paid for my car insurance for a 6-month period in full. The first time I've ever been able to do that. A major accomplishment for me. But Then I went and added my daughter because she's 17 now. She has her license and she just got a new vehicle. So I'm actually adding her onto my insurance. And with that, her amount is ridiculously high, but I'm still going to pay that amount off in full as well. So half of that is $319. And then by my next payday, I will add the other half to it, and that will be the full amount needed to pay for her for the next 6 months. So if I add up all of those, it should come to what I originally estimated, which is, let's see, 1183 plus 156.28 plus 20.27 plus 85.17 plus 319, and actually before it equals 1763.72, which matches what we had there. But actually, let me check one more thing. Looking at my credit card statement, I realized that I actually overestimated what I owed here. So I'm going to wipe that out. And yes, you do use a lot of whiteout putting together these bill trackers. Just because you want to make sure your numbers are all the way right when you do this. So my credit one payment will actually be $116.28 as a total. I did not use the $40 additional that I thought I would. So let's add these numbers up again, because they're actually going to end up being less than what I originally budgeted, which is why having the estimated budget and then the actual budget is a great way to put these together, because you're looking at your numbers and expenses in real time and giving it 2 checks before you actually start implementing it. Okay, so adding up my numbers, 1,183 for household expenses for the month, plus the 116.28 to fully pay off my credit card. That brings me back to a zero balance, plus the expenses for Afterpay, plus expenses for my daughter's senior pictures, plus the half payment for the insurance, brings us to $1,723.72, which makes sense because that's $40 less than what I originally budgeted. So that leaves us a remaining balance of, let's see, $3,038.63 minus 1,723.72 equals $1,314.91. So the way that I actually set up my bill tracker is also a little unique, because I actually deal with my variable expenses, or cash envelopes, as the budget mom calls them, last. I like to look at my sinking funds, sinking funds are basically a way to allocate for long-term expenses in the short term. So for instance, one of the things I talked about in my MILF Mama Monday video was being able to pay for Christmas. And if you haven't watched that video, I will put the link above so that you can swipe up and check that out. But one of the things I talked about was being able to pay for the Christmas holiday in cash, meaning I wouldn't have to use my credit cards. I wouldn't have to tap into my regular paycheck at that time. I could still cover all of my monthly bills and variable expenses. And so having kind of an envelope or an account of money already set aside to cover an expense is an example of what a sinking fund is. People have all kinds of sinking funds. And that's the wonderful and beautiful thing about the way the budget mom has set up her system, in that she does not tell you what your sinking funds are. You figure out and determine what your sinking funds are. They are what you prioritize your savings toward. But just to give you a better understanding of sinking funds, if you haven't heard it from other sources, I would say sinking funds are basically being able to save up towards an event or goal in the short term, or over a long period of time. So you take a little bit each payday, or each time you receive some type of income, and put it towards that sinking fund goal. And so my sinking funds right now are, and actually these aren't all of them, but the ones that I'm focusing on are Christmas 2020. I really want to be able to pay off this year. My overall goal is to have $3,000 set aside for this holiday this year. I'm not sure if I will need all of that, but just to make sure that I can cover decorations, gifts, travel, parties. I want to make sure I have a significant amount to look out for everyone and everything that I would like to cover. So $3,000 is my goal. I broke that down by month. And then I broke that down into assuming I have only 2 pay periods every month. So my amount allocated per pay period for Christmas 2020 is $130. And I want to keep it that way. So I'm going to put that $130 there. And then for memberships, this includes, right now, I'm really saving towards my Amazon Prime renewal, which comes up in May. And so I'm allocating $24 towards that. Special days, really for me, is birthdays. I don't break it out by birthdays specifically for each person in my household. I've watched a lot of people that do. I think the Budget Mom also does it that way. So she has a savings fund for her son, one for her boyfriend, and then others for other people in her family. I just say special days. That could be birthdays, that could be some type of celebration or event that we plan to have as a family, or I may personally be scheduling, even including a lunch date or dinner date with one of my girlfriends. So I just put money each pay period towards special days, as I call them, anniversaries, all those types of things. And I don't really have a specified goal for that. I just keep building it up, and as I use it, I just keep replenishing it. And then I have what I call my Be Happy Fund. And if you don't have a Be Happy Fund and you start this system, or you are thinking about just adding a sinking fund to your repertoire, I would definitely recommend a Be Happy Fund. Be Happy Fund for me is just things that make me happy. As you know, happiness heals is my mantra. And so with that, I believe that you should always be investing in your mental well-being. And in my Be Happy Fund, I cover all the things I like to do. So that could be my planning, that could be a spa day, that could be buy myself something that I really wanted for a while, maybe a new perfume or a new outfit, or treating myself to something, or doing something special with someone I love, my daughter, my boyfriend, or one of my family members. My Be Happy Fund is just something that I know, or extra money that I set aside to know that I will be happy. I think the last time, or that something that will make me smile, I try to put a little bit more towards it so they can build it up a little faster, because I tend to like things that are not cheap. So trying to put $20 towards it takes a lot longer to get toward being able to spend towards something I like than maybe $50 or whatever. Adding up my Christmas amount, $130, plus my memberships, $24, plus special days, plus Be Happy, it does bring me to $224, which is what I estimated. I don't really see a need to change any of those, so I will leave that as is. Then going down to debt. So extra debt. Extra debt is any debts that you pay above and beyond with your minimum payments are for your existing debts. What does that mean? So let's use my credit card, for example. My Credit One credit card, and I should put a CC here just to kind of indicate that's my credit card. But for my Credit One credit card, I used to have a balance of about $500. Actually, $625. Now that I think about it, I used to have a balance of about $625. I recently was able to pay all of that off and bring that down to $0. However, my monthly amount that was due each month was $25. And I think even on my bill for this month, it's really $25. So there's 2 ways to handle that. One, if I were still dealing with my balance of $625 and I wanted to pay a little bit more than the minimum balance, then I would put the $25 over here under Credit One, and then I will put whatever that additional amount, and I would have Credit One here, and whatever the additional amount would be on this side is extra debt. So in other words, with your bills, and that goes with all of your bills, you're really only obligated to pay on a monthly basis what that minimum required amount is to pay. But if you decide that you want to start paying down your debts and you're getting more serious about your financial well-being and financial happiness, and you say, I'm tired of getting these bills, I'm tired of having the stress of, debt on me, then you will hopefully be able to start using a method similar to this one. If it isn't this one, I'm highly recommending that it is, but you will start using a method that will allow you to allocate what you're required to pay, and then also what you want to start tracking, what additional amounts you pay. So if I were to pay the $25 minimum amount, and then say I wanted to pay $50 rather than just the $25, then I will put $25 over here under bills, because that's what I'm required to pay. And then over extra debt, I would have credit one, credit card, and I would have, under actual, because that's, what I'm actually allocating towards that, I would have the other $25. For me now, because I've actually paid off my full balance and I intend to maintain a zero balance on this credit card as much as possible, I still want to maintain it as an emergency credit card. And I know some people will say once you pay them off, you should cut them up and never use them again. It all comes with discipline. And one of the biggest pieces for me with my financial journey is not so much just to eliminate my debt, but it's really the journey of teaching myself to be responsible and accountable to myself when it comes to my spending. So I should be able, ideally, to walk around with any card in my in my wallet, and make rational decisions as to how I use that money. And the easy way for me to be able to do that is to just take away the possibility and potential of doing that. But is that really teaching myself how to be responsible with money, or is it just teaching me avoidance? Because for me, as a person who's also still going through the process of rebuilding my credit, it is beneficial for me to have credit cards. It is beneficial for me to have a car note and be paying timely payments on. It is beneficial for me to take out, a loan for things that I need for my business and make sure that I'm making those payments on a regular basis. So I really am at the journey of teaching myself how to be responsible and accountable to my financial opportunities and not just avoiding them. I know, long lecture. I apologize for that. If you are that disciplined person and you really didn't need that 15-minute rant, sorry. If you are that person who just needs to kind of talk it through, think it through, know that you have a new friend, Miss T, who has been through your experience or that can relate to your experience when it comes to money and trying to get to a point of being financially responsible. I'm here for you, boo. We're in this together. I really want to help. I really do think the Budget Moms process will help you. It is not the easiest. It's not the most simple. But once you get it, you get it. And it's really, really empowering to be able to allocate your money where you want it to be and think through the process of why you do the things that you do. Think through how you use all of the financial tools and opportunities that come through your way, because they're put there for a reason, and it's up to you to get the full potential out of them at all times. So off of my soapbox, back to the bill tracker. All right, so we filled out sinking funds. We explained what that is. Hopefully I explained to you a little bit better about extra debt. As I mentioned, extra debt is basically anything above and beyond the bills that you have due for the month. And those bills should be on your April monthly budget. In terms of extra debt, for me this month, I'm going through the financial goal of trying to pay off all medical bills. So I'm trying to really pay down and pay off all of my medical bills right now, so that I can free those funds up to do other things with. So this month, I plan to pay $30 towards Children's Hospital, which is probably just an outstanding copay, but I will put that in my actual column. Johns Hopkins, same thing. There's $40 that I want to pay. And then Kennedy Krieger, which is one of my daughter's providers, $100 towards our balance for that. Adding that up, that is $170. And let's just confirm that. 30 plus 40 plus 100 equals 170. So extra savings is similar to extra debt, meaning that it's anything above and beyond what you initially assumed you would be putting towards your savings. One thing that the budget mom stresses a lot is that you may not have amount for each of these categories all the time. As I mentioned, it's all really heavily relied upon the income amount that you have. If your income is a lot less, then you may only have enough to cover your bills and your variable expenses initially, and that's okay. Over time, you will start to see where you can cut back, especially if you're tracking your expenses, which she has a form that you can use for that. This is what it looks like. I won't go into that today because that's a whole nother tutorial. As you start tracking your expenses over time, you can start to see we are spending $500 a month on food or dining out or clothing or, just miscellaneous expenses. But she says every dollar that you should receive, it should have a purpose. It should have a place. And as you do that over time, you will start to see more and more money free up for you to be able to put towards these extra things, your sinking funds, your little goals. Sinking funds can be as little as $5. If you don't have a whole lot of money, but you have $10 left over after you pay all of your bills and you pay for groceries and maybe your gas and your medical expenses, maybe all you have is $10. You can either take that extra $10, put it towards paying a bill if you have extra debt out there, or you could put it towards a sinking fund or two. You say, hey, for Christmas, I want to set aside $5, and for my Be Happy Fund, I want to put $5 towards that. And so putting that $5 there every single payday over time gives you a cushion amount or a saved amount, allocated amount that when you get to Christmas is less money that you have to pull from your paycheck or pull from your credit cards or pull from whatever other sources you have in order to get through that expense. Or if not Christmas, because everyone doesn't celebrate Christmas, whatever bigger expenses are throughout the year. So for extra savings, I have my checking cushion, which I wanted to put $100 towards that because I am now starting to try to build up a designated checking cushion. My goal for that is $1,000. So I'm going to start with $100. I don't know if I'll be putting that much in it every payday, but I do want to start out at least trying to designate that much money to kind of building it up again. My emergency fund, as I mentioned to you, I try to put $25 of the savings amount that I already designate towards that, and then $25 towards that long-term savings. For savings, I have $150 allocated. In order to figure out what I can allocate towards my variable expenses in my envelopes, I need to back out, or my way of doing it is by backing out what I know I have for sinking funds, debt, and savings from that amount, and then using whatever's remaining to allocate portions towards my envelopes. Let's go back to what I have left over after my bills. So I have $1,314.91. I want to subtract my sinking funds because I know I'm going to designate that amount. And then I want to take out my extra debt payments because I know I want to pay those amounts. And then I want to also take out extra savings. That leaves me with $770.91, which is a little bit more than what I originally planned, which is great because I need that money. I know I have $770.91 to use, so I actually will put that here in envelopes total because I know that has to be that amount in order for me to be able to have the funds in order to settle those three categories there. I'm going to put 770.91. So if you look at my budget column, I had already kind of pre-thought out where my money needed to go, what my priorities were, even for these variable expenses. And variable expenses are really the expenses that you incur every month, but the amount varies. So your bills tend to be the same. You know what your household amount will be every month. Your mortgage or rent will be every month. You tend to know what your utilities will be every month. You tend to know what your car payment will be, what your credit card minimum payments will be every month. Your student loans will be every month. Those kind of things go in the bill section. Variable expenses tend to be those other things that you need to live that don't always have a definitive amount to them. So that could be groceries, that could be dining out, that could be beauty, that could be your kids, that could be your pet, that could be your medical expenses, that could be dry cleaning or laundry, if you have to go to a laundromat. That could be, I mean, honestly, truly, variable expenses are very unique, because when you don't budget for your variable expenses, that's where you tend to go wrong. This is the area where things go left. Variable expenses are probably one of the most important areas of your budget that you should be paying attention to, because it's where you tend to spend more or spend less each month, and where you want to be most attentive so that you can get more accurate with it, or even more disciplined to challenge yourself to spend less, so that you end up staying on track with your budget and making sure that you have what is needed for your savings, your extra debt payments, and the other things that are your financial goals. My variable expenses or cash envelopes are groceries, dining out, beauty, medical, pet, dry cleaning, gas, charity, miscellaneous. Looking at what my expenses are, I know that for beauty specifically, I just had to do an Amazon haul. If you have not noticed yet, and I hope you don't hate me too much for this, my hands, my nails are horrendous. The quarantine has been horrible towards my beauty regimen. I will set aside $110 towards my beauty regimen for this month. My dry cleaning, I actually said that I wasn't going to do that. I went past the dry cleaners yesterday and didn't think that I had allocated money towards this. So I'll just wait till my next payday to get things dry cleaned, because I really didn't have a whole lot to have cleaned anyway. So we're going to take that down to zero. Gas is really, really cheap right now, actually. And so I think I can actually get away with $40 going towards that. I may even try to creep in with a car wash. I do want to set aside still $20 towards charity. That I previously, in my last payday, tried to keep as an electronic envelope, meaning in my bank account, but I noticed that really charity for me comes with being able to help people in real time. So if I'm out somewhere and someone needs money, then I want to try to actually have cash on hand to be able to give them. Signing out is one of those areas where we tend to do a lot. No matter how much I try to draw back on this area, like it just is a family of 3, or sometimes 4 or 5, depending on if my stepsons come to visit. It just tends to be a lot. So I originally was going to only allocate $100, but I think I really need to do $160 in this area. $770.91 minus $160 for dining out, minus $110 for beauty, minus $40 for gas and car washes, minus $20 for charity. I'm still left with $440 for our dog. He also has medical issues that we have to have checked on a regular basis. His vet expenses tend to be kind of high, so I will allocate $225 towards that, which leaves me with $215. And then medical expenses, I know my daughter has at least one copay, and I always try to keep a little bit extra. So I will actually allocate $80 towards this. Minus 80. Okay, $135. And then for groceries, I want to allocate $60 towards that. And that leaves me $75.91 for miscellaneous. And miscellaneous actually is covers anything that's just outside of what I plan to spend for. Let me just make sure that I did the right math. 60 plus 160 plus 110, 80. Yeah, okay, so I am right on the money there. So if we do 1,314.91 minus 770.91 equals 544, which is exactly what I need because these expenses did not change. So I'm going to pull that leftover amount, 544. minus the 224, which brings us to 320. 320 minus the 170 is 150, and 150 minus the 154 extra savings is 0. At the end of the month, if I stick to all of my budgeted amounts, then I should have $100 left in my checking account because I've set aside the $100 as my cushion. The TBM system is amazing. The Budget by Paycheck Workbook, which is what this comes from, is a great resource tool to help you think through your expenses and your financial goals. And like I said, I really would like to be able to help people figure out how to do these in a way that makes sense and seems simplified and it's not as complicated. The income section is all of your income that you get for that designated pay period. Some people get paid bi-weekly, some people get paid once a month, some people get paid 3, 4, 5 different paychecks a month. If you are, say, a YouTuber or a hairdresser or somebody whose salary or income is not consistent, then I would advise you get 5 of these in the TBM workbook to be able to track. I would say to bundle paychecks together that come within the same week or maybe within a 2-week period so that you can have, instead of constantly having to keep allocating money at the end of, say, a week where you know you've gotten 2 checks, budget those 2 checks together, put them on your paycheck bill tracker, and then think through these different sections. And so the income portion is very important in terms of thinking out how frequently you want to fill out your paycheck bill trackers. Bills are those expenses that you tend to have in order to be able to maintain your cost of living. They tend to be the same amount or very similar amount on a regular monthly basis. And then they also might be once in a while expenses that you incur in a particular month. So for instance, Amazon Prime is one of those expenses where it's a membership, it's a subscription that you pay once a year. And so when your renewal period comes up, if that's April, if that's May, if that's December, you should have that expense listed as a bill on one of your paycheck bill trackers within that month, depending on how you set up your budget calendar, which we talked about in a previous tutorial. You want to include those expenses in the bill section on a particular month. If you have certain things like credit cards or student loans or other variable debts like that, then you want to include the minimal payment amount in the bill section for those expenses, unless you plan to pay the full balance off each month. If you plan to pay the full balance off each month, then you should just have that debt as well as the full amount for that debt in this bill section. You wouldn't need to track it in any other portion of your paycheck bill tracker. Envelopes, I would say the budget mom heavily advocates for cash envelopes because, and I do agree with her, when you have cash, you're more mindful of how you're spending it than when you're swiping your card. We tend to go out and don't worry about the swipe until after the fact, unless it declines. Then that's a whole different story. But when you're typically out and just living life and you start swiping, you really don't think about what that expense means until you go back and look at your, bank statements or your apps later on. If you have cash and you pull that $20 bill out, you are in real time thinking about what that $20 is going towards, or, $100 or whatever the expenses are. And so the variable expenses, as I mentioned before, are covered by these cash envelopes. They should be the expenses that you need to maintain your lifestyle on a regular basis, but the amount that you spend on them changes each month. So each person is going to be different, but some tend to be about the same for everyone. Everyone tends to buy groceries, or everyone tends to dine out. In some way, you're getting nourishment. So you should tend to have, and some people actually just have a food envelope or variable expense, and that can cover both. For me, I like to look at them separately because I like to have separate goals for each. I sometimes will say I only want to do slow cooker meals so that I can keep my grocery bill within a certain amount, or I only want to eat out 2 times a week so I can cut down on my dining out expenses. So I look at them separately. For some people, they say that's overkill. I just want to know that I have $400 towards food, however I choose to spend that. And that's okay too. Beauty, medical, pet, dry cleaning, gas, charity, and always, 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 always have miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is that thing that you didn't think that you need, that you want. That's basically what miscellaneous expenses tend to be. Your variable expenses, like I said, you can play around with those. You could be more creative. You could be a little bit more frugal. But the one thing that you truly want to try to be is realistic. Because if you set your goals too small, for instance, if you are a family of 4 and you're only allocating $100 a month towards food, you probably are going to bust that budget pretty badly. So you need to be, one of the first things that the Budget Mom advocates is that you look at your expense tracking, track your expenses over at least a 30-day period and see what those expenses look like in each of the categories that you think you will need in terms of your cash envelopes or your variable expenses. As I mentioned during my earlier videos, I am now moving away from a cash envelope system because I've lost my wallet twice and I significantly lost a good bit of money the last time. And so with that, I'm moving to more of a minimal cash approach. And with that, that means I still allocate what I need for each of these cash envelopes or variable expenses, but that amount is tracked while those funds are in my checking account. The money that I take out for my envelopes are actually for my sinking funds, and in this case, my progressive, because I want to take that money out of my checking account and make sure that it's set aside for that particular expense. If you're using the regular the Budget Mom's promoted approach or her recommended approach, then you would be taking these amounts out each month or each payday for each of these variable expenses. You'll have a designated envelope for those expenses. I don't have my envelopes anymore since I've lost my wallet, but you would be taking those amounts out and using them towards the each of these designated categories. The cash envelopes or variable expenses are in this category here, and they are the things that constantly change throughout the month. Depending on how you set up your paycheck bill trackers, you may have the same variable expenses every payday, or you may say, hey, I want to cover groceries and dining out and dry cleaning with my first paycheck, and then I want to cover beauty and car wash and miscellaneous with my second one. So depending on how you do that, I'm a person, I like to cover all categories, both paydays, just to make sure I consistently have funding for all categories. But you know, once again, that's another thing that you can adapt and adjust that makes sense for your lifestyle and your situation. Sinking funds, as I mentioned, are those savings goals that you have that are a little bit more long-term, but that you're saving a little towards each payday. So holidays tend to fall in this category. Memberships and subscriptions fall in this category. You know, birthdays fall in this category. As I mentioned, my Be Happy Fund is my personal category. Some people have sinking funds for their children or their car expenses or their pet expenses. Anything that you can see that occurs throughout the year that's a little further out in the distance, not like within the next 30 days, but maybe 60, 90, 120, 365 days away, that you can allocate little small portions towards that goal. Those are your sinking funds. And one of the fun things that the Budget Mom advocates is to have sinking fund or savings trackers. So where you're coloring in or outlining in a visual sense your ability to reach those goals. I am not as disciplined to do this as I should be. And I have said that I'm going to start being more particular about kind of having savings trackers to go along with these goals. One way or the other, you should have a specific amount in mind for each of your sinking fund amounts, what your goal is, and you should be putting a little bit each paycheck towards that amount. Extra debt, as I mentioned, is debt that you're paying off in addition to what you know you're obligated to pay. So your bills are what you're obligated to pay. They're the minimum amount. They're the amount that's due each month. Extra debt is what are you paying above and beyond those amounts. Me right now, as I mentioned, my goal is medical bills, just because that's a big portion of my family's outstanding debt, those amounts, those debts should be covered in this section. Extra savings are savings that you want to put money towards to get towards a financial goal. So the budget mom, as I mentioned in my overview video for her MILF Mama Mondays, recently achieved a goal of purchasing her very first home in cash. And she consistently showed month after month how she was allocating money towards her savings goal in that particular area. And even now, she's still saving towards goals associated with her new home. And so extra savings tend to be emergency fund accounts. They tend to be your checking cushion. You can actually have your checking cushion in the extra savings section or in your bill section. To me, it's extra savings. It's literally extra money that you're putting aside to make sure that you don't go in the red each payday. So for me, I keep that in the extra savings section. And then you can have long-term savings, or as I have a savings cushion, which is basically if I deplete all of the money in my checking cushion for unexpected expenses in a month, I still have savings in the event that something comes up that I don't expect, and that is not quite to the extent of being an emergency for me. So I'm saving in those cases. Extra savings can also be if you're saving towards, say, your child's college fund or other things that are long-term savings goals for you. So you put those in this section here. And then the one thing that I keep saying that is very, very, very important is when you add up your income and subtract your bills, subtract your variable expenses or cash envelopes, subtract your sinking funds, your extra debt, and your extra savings amount, you should be at zero. All right, so now that we've completed our paycheck bill tracker for this pay period, we're going to switch to the cash envelope breakdown. Now, as I mentioned before, I do not follow a cash-based budget anymore. I do not do cash envelopes for the most part. I have what we call a minimal cash budgeting system, or some people even call it a cashless system. To me, I'm still taking out cash each pay period, so that's more of a minimal cash approach rather than the whole cash-based system that the budget mom follows. With my cash envelope breakdown, I do not take out variable expenses anymore. So I used to take out $60 for groceries, $160 for dining out. I'm not doing that anymore. I don't like having those large amounts of money in my wallet, even if I'm only taking 2 wallets at a time. It's just a lot of money for losing or misplacing or whatever the case may be. So I'm doing that more electronically. And for me personally, it's also helped me with being able to track things, because when I go back, I'm a person that looks at my bank account online every day. So I can see exactly what those expenses are, even if I don't get a receipt for something, or, track them as closely as I would have when I had cash. So for my cash envelopes, I tend to only take out money for my sinking funds. And in this case, I'm also going to be taking money out for my savings toward my progressive bill to pay towards my daughter's car insurance. So the categories where I need cash are Christmas 2020, membership, special days. As I mentioned, that is birthdays and holidays to me that I don't specifically save for separately. My Be Happy Fund. There are actually 2 things I want to. Charity, I said I'm going to start taking cash out for that, because I like to break that down into 5s and 10s and be able to actually give that to people in real time when needed. And then also progressive. So I'm going to take that money out, put it in a sinking fund. And I actually do have a car insurance sinking fund. I want to start saving for that. Miscellaneous, actually, I had been taking cash out for that previously, but then I noticed that a lot of my miscellaneous funds tend to be like Amazon purchases. So I think I'm actually going to leave that electronic as well this month and kind of track it to see whether it would be better to have in cash, or if I should continue having it as a electronic account. So let's see, amount for Christmas 2020, $130, membership $24, special days $20, Be Happy Fund should be 50, charity is 20, and progressive 319. My calculator back out. I'm going to move my bill tracker off to the side actually so we can focus in on this one. And let's see, 130 plus 24 plus 20 plus 50 plus 20 plus 319. I'm the only person that likes the sound of a calculator. I don't know why, but something about the way the numbers click, the little buttons click, just does something for me. Maybe I should have been an accountant. So then when we do cash breakdowns, we want to look at how we want to allocate that money. And so for Christmas 2020, I normally do $100 bill, a $20 bill, and a 10. Keep it simple. Membership, $20 bill, and for singles, special days, a $20 bill. Be Happy Fund, 2 20s and a 10. Charity, actually like this one in lower denominations. So I would give 2 5s and 10 1s. And then progressive, 3 $100 bills, a 10, a 5, and 4 1s. Okay, now then we add the columns up. So let's see, I need 4 $100 bills. And needless to say, we don't need any 50s. I need 5 20s, 3 10s, 3 5s, and 18 ones. There's also a section here to put the total value for those amounts. So $400, $0, $100, $30, $15, and $18. And these amounts added up should equal that amount. So let's make sure that we did that right. 18 plus 15 plus 30 plus 100 plus 400, $563. That is correct. Now, the last thing that we do is the Budget Mom has these super cool, she makes the whole process simplified and pretty for you. And every time I go into the bank, they absolutely love these little slips. So she actually has these little cash envelope breakdown tallies that you take into the bank with you, so you'll know what denominations of money that you need. And the bank, it makes it a lot easier for your bank transactions. So I need 18 $1 bills. I need 3 $5 bills, 3 $10 bills, 5 20s, 0 50s, and 4 100s. And then we put the amounts there. And when I go to the bank, I shall get this amount out, and then I'll come back, stuff my cash envelopes for you guys, and boom, you'll see how the whole process works. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and I will be back next week with another MILF Mama showing you how to implement their philosophies in your life and how I'm using it in my life to make your lives a little bit easier and much happier.